Hello and welcome to the brand new show On the Road With. My name's Gareth and I'll be your host. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll be talking to a lot of different touring professionals in the performing arts industries, the entertainment industry, about what touring means to them, the different people they've worked with, how they got into it in the first place, and what it means for their mental health. I've got some great, really exciting guests lined up for you on this first series. And my first guest today is a man called Spike Munro, who was a member of the pop group Marmalade, who had 14 top 20 hits in the UK. He's also performed a number of different roles in the music industry, from singer to manager to guitarist, and he's a really, really good friend of mine, so I hope you enjoy. Spike, thanks for doing this.
Hi Gareth, it's nice to be here on your, which I think is your first podcast, and welcome to my man cave.
Yeah, well, I'm in mine as well. It's not really a man cave so much as a dining room with a laptop and a few bits and bobs. As you know, I'm getting into the studio experience at the minute, and it's a bit of a, as we talk about often, it's a bit of a different world, isn't it?
Yeah, you've just got to work with what you've got, basically.
Absolutely, which is kind of like being on the road. See what I did there? The link into the podcast.
Exactly.
So one thing you said to me, we talk very often, and often at this sort of time. It's actually quite early for us. It's 11:30 at night, 11:45.
No, 5 to 12.
Is it 5 to 12 now? By the time we got our tech,
it is early, yeah.
By the time we got our tech brains together, it's become 5 to 12. It's actually quite early for us, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
But by normal standards. But the one thing that you've said to me on many of our calls is that you don't plan anything. Things just fall into place. You've never set out with a particular plan in your career as a successful touring musician, and other jobs in the business as well. What do you think the advantages of that are, as opposed to planning everything? Because I know I'm a massive planner. I've got the to-do list, and I'm always talking to you about this goal and that aim, and I'm going to do this by then. And I'm kind of the opposite. So what do you think the advantages of, so to speak, your way are?
I don't know about the advantages. It's just the way my life has panned out. I always find if I actually want something and really want it, I've never got it. But when I've just sat there and done nothing, and things just happen. I mean, I don't like knowing what's ahead. Some people need security in their lives, but not me. I didn't intend to play the guitar or be in a band. You go back to 1962, the Light programme, full of Lonnie Donegan and whatever, and Pat Boone. And then suddenly this flash of light came out. The Beatles, Love Me Do. You can't imagine what that was like in 1962. I'm bouncing around the kitchen with a tennis racket. And I was brought up by my grandparents, so my nan says, "Oh, look, he's got the rhythm." And I'll go, "Buy me a guitar." So next thing I know, my granddad's bought me a guitar, and he's paid for lessons at the local music shop in Cannock. And all of a sudden I'm thinking, this ain't fun. But he made me practice. I think by the time I was 11, that's about the limit. I've never got any better than that. But,
I wouldn't say that, Spike. I wouldn't say that. You're doing yourself a disservice there, mate. Come on.
But 11 years old, 1 year practicing, learning, and all the parents got together. With all the kids in the class, and behind our backs, they created a band. And next thing I know, I'm playing on the clubs at 11 years old. Absolutely. Can I swear? I mean, absolutely shitting myself.
And you're out there in the big wide world of gigging, and the good, bad, and the ugly that comes with that.
And there was 6 of us in the band, and our first wages were £3.10 between 6 of us. I remember that.
Big payday.
Well, I suppose in '62 it was, and we were called the Chase Beats, because at the time it was the Mersey Beats. And
of course, of course.
Yeah, and I came from Cannock Chase, and so we were called the Chase Beats, and that, that was the start of it, really. Not planned, as we were going back to that first, thing. That wasn't planned. I carried on in another band, and it just kept going, and I didn't look for it. So I guess I was just lucky, you know. But then again, people who plan, I always say, a little saying a friend of mine says to me, plan your work and work your plan.
I've heard that a few times from a friend of mine.
Yeah.
Big thing you taught me, actually. Big thing you taught me.
But that works for some people, and but I've just never been like that. I'm great at giving that advice, but I'll never take my own advice. But it's very difficult to say why things have happened the way they have, and I guess I've just been lucky. That's all I can say.
Well, when you
have a career,
when you talk about that thing of one thing you said in that there was one door closes, another opens, or slams shut in your face.
Yeah.
I'm interviewing a mutual friend of ours, Drew Stansel, on one of the following podcasts.
Good old Drew.
And yeah, he's great. He's a great mate of ours, and we both go a long way back with him, and have been through a lot with him, and we've been through some of his highs and lows in the music business with him, and that's something he's always said to me, is that what was the phrase he used? Everything leads to something, I think, or words to that effect.
Yeah.
It always leads on to something else, and that hearing you talk, there was a lot of echoes in terms of my career when you said, I joined a band, then I joined another band, then I joined another band. What you missed out, actually, I know from our previous conversations, is the solo. I joined a band, then I was solo for a bit, and that's the bit I'm in at the minute, obviously being solo.
Oh, you mean me? Well,
yeah.
When I went solo, you mean?
Well, yeah, I'm just, I'm saying that's you probably didn't get that far because we hadn't got that far in your life, sort of thing. But
so much happened before that.
But well, let's talk about something that happened before that. Obviously, one of the reasons I got you onto the podcast and on one of the first episodes is obviously you being a good friend of mine. I like to interview people that I know, as we've talked about before. That's a lot easier when you're new to the podcast game, like I am. But also the fact that I feel like there's a big portion of your life and career that I don't really know very much about, and that's the Marmalade days. We never really have touched on that. I don't know why, but I've had the odd anecdote from you about it. But can you take us through that period in a nutshell, if you can?
Again, very whistle stop then. Yeah, again, nothing planned. I was in a band. I first moved to Leicester. Let's just quickly go. I moved to Leicester in '73. Working at the Palais for Mecca, with Ivor Kenny Band. We were supporting them. We were called King Christian Affair, and did the Tiffany's and all the Mecca circuit. And then we went on the road and we became a band called Kipper. People will remember that in Leicester. And we were working a lot in Guernsey. Used to do month gigs at a time, And while I was over there, I met a girl. Anyway, Kipper was having a holiday, and I thought, what am I going to do? I've got nothing to do for a couple of weeks. So I got on a plane and just flew over there. And she, by that time, had met someone else. And I met her new boyfriend, as it were. And it happened to be Graham Knight, who was the bass player for Marmalade. I didn't know who he was at the time. I'd heard his name, but I didn't know. And I introduced. I said, "Oh, what do you do for a living?" He goes. So he looks at me like gone out, as if I'm supposed to know who he was.
Oh, one of those. Yeah, I've had a few of them.
Yeah. He goes, "Are you going to tell him I'm me?"
Yeah.
Glaswegian. Anyway, we got on really well socially, and we kept in touch for about a year. Always kept in touch through a mutual friend, as it were. And Kipper, we had, what it's like, politics in a band, and we fell out. We had a bit of an argument, and I thought, right, okay, I'm going to leave. I've had enough of this. So I gave him a month's notice and said, I didn't want to drop a minute, as it were. And during that month, I'm thinking, oh my God, what am I going to do? I've got no job to go to.
You didn't have any other work?
Oh, nothing, no. So we just happened to be playing in Middlesbrough at this nightclub. And we'd done the first set. We was in the band room, in the break. And the manager came in and says, asked for me, my name. And well, who would know that I was here? This is like 1976. There's no mobiles. Who
Mm.
would immediately think, oh God, somebody's died or whatever? I don't know. I went to the his office and picked the phone up, and it was Graham Knight. How did you find me? Anyway, they'd rang the police or something or in Middlesbrough to find out. They knew the name of the band, found out where I was, and said the guitarist is left. His name was Garth Roy,
Was he the,
Norman
was
Roy's brother.
was he the
From the,
original guitarist? Was he?
oh, not the original, no.
No.
But he was playing with the band. He left to join a band called Q-Tips with Paul Young.
Mm.
Um, and his brother is Norman Watroy, the bass player with the Blockheads. Anyway, they said, do you want the job? And I was going, yeah, I was just about to leave the band, and I went, well, let me think about that. Yes.
Yeah, thought about it for all of a split second.
Yeah. And so the next day I got back and spoke to them on the phone, and they said, well, they sent me a load of cassettes and chord sheets, and that was it. I didn't do an audition or anything. They'd never heard me play or sing or whatever. I just had to learn the set.
Mm.
And two weeks later, I did my first gig with them up in, now, I think I mentioned to you, it could have been Whitby, it could have been Whitley Bay. I'll forget which one now.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm gonna swear again, but I was shitting myself, as you can imagine. Your brain trying to process all these numbers and stuff I'd never done, and it worked. It just went. It just happened. I was so focused, and you know, the next gig, the second gig, obviously you get a bit cocky, don't you? I cocked it up. I just made a complete mess of it, purely unplanned. It just happened, and basically I was with them for about 3 years, a 3-year-long party. Well, in fact, the whole of the 70s was a complete party. I mean, I turned pro in 1970, and I settled down in 1981. Settled down by buying a house, but basically the rest of that, the 10 years was just, if these walls could talk.
Yeah, well.
I'm going to change the name to protect the innocent, but basically it was just a ball.
Yeah.
So the whole of the 70s, for me, was brilliant. I look back at documentaries and I think it wasn't all that cool when you look at what really happened, but it all passed me by. I was just having too much of a good time, I guess.
That's the thing, when you get into on the road mode, as it were.
Oh, yeah.
You're completely removed from everyday life, and you're in a bubble.
Yeah.
I know people talk about Westminster being a bubble or social media being a bubble. Being on the road is its own bubble, and
it certainly is.
You have your own life in that bubble, don't you? Which is completely different to your life at home.
I mean, I joined Marmalade when they were just coming out the charts with their last hit, actually. Falling apart at the seams. So I got the tail end of that. I was just a jobber, so what, But unbelievable, I saw things and did things that, not many people do, but you've done more than me now.
Yeah, I mean, it's strange for me. I mean, some of the I was thinking back on this the other day in preparation for this interview. I was thinking about some of the international experiences that I value the most.
Fantastic.
And actually, the ones that are up there are some of the more bizarre ones, like going to Monaco and playing for a millionaire, basically mafia type.
Yeah.
And and I mean Fuji Rock in front of nearly 10,000 people at 11 in the morning.
And if it wasn't for music, you'd have never experienced those things.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. That's right.
And it might be an insecure lifestyle, but I'm sorry, better that than a 9 to 5.
Absolutely, yeah. We've always been in agreement on that, haven't we?
Yeah.
I mean, the one thing I want to kind of touch on really is So you've always said to me, I'm changing subject slightly here, but you've always said to me that I'm not a songwriter. I know you've started looking at doing it a bit recently and stuff, but
Yeah, for my own amusement, that is.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But I know,
nobody will hear it.
and you talk about, well, first of all, you talk about being a jobber was the phrase you used,
Yeah.
and you said to me when we were on the phone earlier organising this interview, you said, oh, it's like you with the South, and what do you think in terms of the tour experience? I don't necessarily mean the finances and the creative input and the business side, but from a tour experience, would you say there's much difference between your jobbers and your band members?
Well, you've never got real control, have you?
No.
You've got to do what you're told. You've got to go with the flow. So you don't have that much input. Um, I mean, I'm just talking from my own experience. I just
Mm.
did what was necessary.
Yeah, yeah,
That's all I can say. I mean, if I was maybe a songwriter, I could have put more input in, but all I did was play other people's songs. So I can't think what else I could have done really. I was just happy to be working.
And did you sing backing vocals on those for Marmalade as well, or were you just purely
Oh yeah,
guitarist?
yeah. I was backing vocals and part of the act. Other bands, I've always been the lead singer. So for me, it was a bit of a rest.
Yeah,
I thought,
yeah.
right, I'll just play what's necessary and sing along and do whatever's wanted, basically.
See, like I've said to you on many an occasion, I've gone the opposite way in that I was a backing vocalist in various bands for a long time
Yeah,
and trumpet player. And
yeah,
then I got a bit sick of doing that and actually thought, no, I can deliver in the limelight myself, hence
yeah,
what I'm doing now.
exactly.
So it's
I mean,
completely the other way around.
I was quite happy doing that, and then obviously when I left Marmalade, I ended up joining. Well, talking about Drew earlier,
Yeah,
I ended up joining a band which were called Mint, which
yeah.
was with Drew's dad, Dennis,
Right. Yeah, yeah.
an absolute star.
Lovely bloke. Yeah, yeah, lovely bloke.
Sadly he's gone now,
Mm,
and what a gentleman. But and Drew, obviously, he was just a young little kid then. He
yeah,
used to do the
yeah,
lights for us, when we
yeah.
was playing, and we changed the name to Strider because the lads with Mint, obviously, they'd won New Faces, won Up Knocks, and
Mm,
and they'd done all that, and they wanted to distance themselves from Mint. So I ended up being lead singer again,
mm.
fronting the band, and that was fantastic. That Strider,
And
and we
what level of gigs was that in
oh
comparison to
basically
Marmalade? Was it?
it was just local stuff really.
Yeah,
We didn't,
small
it's nothing
venues
like,
kind of thing.
yeah, it was nothing like that. And but I was just happy to do that, and Alan Jones, who was the lead guitarist, along with Dennis, because you know him as a trumpet player, but I only knew him as a lead guitarist.
Yeah, yeah,
Alan taught me sign writing, so I ended up doing another career, sign writing,
yeah. Well, that's that. That's
along with
that.
photography as well.
Well,
So I was doing that.
that's the kind of thing in that. Obviously, we haven't got time. The usual 3-4 hours we have on the phone
Oh yeah, 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 yeah,
to go into the careers outside of music that you've had. But in
yeah.
terms of in the music industry, you've done the agent booking side, but
Mm.
also purely as a musician. I'm always talking with other musicians we know, and we talk about I don't know, we've got a Paradigms gig coming up, and I'll say, "Oh, Spike's on guitar," and they go, "Oh," depending on who they are, they say, "Oh, I think of him as a singer. I think of him as a percussionist."
Oh, yeah.
I have a similar thing, Well, no, Gareth, he's like Bublé, and then they go, "Oh, he plays trumpet as well," but then other people go, "Oh yeah, the trumpet player."
Yeah,
So you get that kind of mistaken identity, don't you? A lot of the
yeah.
time, and a lot of dual personalities. And I remember I was reading Michael McIntyre's autobiography, and
All right.
he was talking about. He said when you're on tour, especially, I mean, these comedians do, loads of dates, arena after arena after arena, relentless, and lots of different size venues. And he said he treated it like, for 2 hours every night, he had his driving test, and that was how nervous he got before
Oh,
every night, because it was like an exam every day.
I
Did
can totally
did you relate? Can
relate.
you relate to that? Yeah.
Oh, I mean, going back to when I first started, stage fright you would not believe. I was always, they always find me, I'd be in the toilet being sick.
Oh, really? One of those where it's throwing up?
Oh, it was, I mean, this is when I first started, chase beats, what I'm talking about. And I just hated every minute of it. And then I joined a band who were older than me, and they basically taught me, I'm not going to say, but
Mm.
basically I thought, actually, this can be quite fun.
Yeah.
And then I started to enjoy it. But when I was younger, I hated it. And my granddad was the manager of the band, and he was pushing me, and I felt pressured all the time. But I felt the same feeling when I went solo in
Well,
the
yeah,
80s,
I can relate to that. I can relate to
because
that.
I was in bands and doing all right, but I had to keep right,
Mm.
professional,
Mm.
whatever that means. But basically, I didn't want another job, and the only way I could do it is going out as a solo artist with backing tracks.
Mm.
And Fingers and Thumbs, Steve Fern and Des Dyer, was with Jigsaw and all. They helped me
Mm.
because they were one of the first to be doing it in the 80s with backing tracks. And I tell you what, those first few gigs on
Mm.
my own, without a band around you, it's just you standing
Yeah,
there on stage. You
yeah,
go,
yeah,
oh my God.
yeah.
I,
I can relate to
I used
that.
to
Yeah,
take my
yeah,
own toilet roll with me, I tell you.
yeah.
And then waiting, for 9 o'clock to come when you're going to do your 2:45s or whatever. It was like waiting for an execution,
Yeah, yeah.
or you know what I mean. A bit like, sometimes waiting in the dentist waiting room, nervous, but as soon as you're in the chair, you're okay.
It's
And as
more,
soon as I come,
it's more the build up than the actual thing.
yeah,
Yeah,
the anticipation
yeah.
or something. But once I was on stage, I did the first number or something. I was on a roll,
Mm.
and I would say it took me I would do 15, 20 gigs before I thought, hold on, what the hell am I being nervous for?
Mm.
They don't know I'm nervous
Yeah,
because nobody would see that. I mean, I'm like a swan going across a smooth water, gliding along, but my feet are racing underneath. That's what I felt like.
yeah.
And then suddenly I thought, no, I've got power. I can play where I want, what I want, when I want, without the politics of a band around me.
Yeah, you've got control, haven't you?
Then I started to enjoy it.
When
And
you realise that you're actually in a fortunate position.
yes,
Yeah,
and then I did really well. I
yeah,
was out nearly every night of the week gigging, and there was loads of gigs in the 80s. But that led on to doing too much and getting nodules on my throat, and I had to have them lasered, and it screwed me voice up. You know.
yeah, yeah,
So now my range has gone down. I'm more Johnny Cash now than whatever.
yeah.
I should be doing Lee Marvin songs now, but I've just gone lower. But
But
I just
I
thought,
mean, I was talking to somebody about this the other day. I think naturally, as a singer, your vocal range low. Obviously, it lowers
oh,
as
it
you get
will,
older,
it
anyway.
will, it will.
Um, but I've found that even between. So when was I first in the Paradigms? I was 20, 21, that kind of
Oh, I
thing.
thought you were younger than that.
Well, I joined when I was 19, but it got going, and in terms of gigging and recording, and very
Oh
active
yeah,
from
yeah,
about
yeah,
21.
yeah.
And they've got a song, "Can't Fight the Feeling," one of the female songs,
Oh yes, I know.
and I do the harmony on it, which is a third above the girl, and it's
Yeah,
ridiculous. It's like Bee Gees kind of territory.
yeah,
And at the gig at the Donkey we did last year,
yeah.
I just about was able to sing that, and I sang it way off mic. And obviously, when I was 21, 22, that was fine. But I don't
That's
associate my
terrible,
voice being that much deeper from 21 to 29.
but it is.
It is, and
It does.
I smoked a few
And
fags since then, I
I
guess.
mean, yeah, but
Some of them were you.
there are some lucky ones. Like I've just mentioned, Des Dyer from Fingers and Thumbs, who
Yeah,
was with Jigsaw. I mean, they're still out there gigging. He's now, what, early 70s, 72 or whatever. His voice is just as it was. And when I see him and I'm going, you bleep, bastard,
So and so.
basically.
Yeah.
You sing those, in the same key as what you did in '76 when you had #1 hit with it.
Yeah, but I mean,
You still can.
I saw
Some
Tony,
people are lucky.
I saw Tony Bennett at the Royal Albert Hall, and he hit this note, and I was watching with my wife, and he hit this note, and at the end of a song, and those sort of gigs, especially for such an old boy like that, the audience go crazy when he hits a big note.
Yeah.
And the audience went mad, big applause. And Amy said to me, she said, would you be able to hit that note? And all the way through the gig, because it's a genre that I do, I was singing along in my head, humming,
Yeah.
And I said to her, yeah, I would be able to. I wouldn't struggle. But I'd be very, very pleased with myself if I nailed it as good as that at my age now at the Royal Albert Hall in front of however many people. That guy is 93,
I was going to say, how old is he? But
93.
Oh my God, he's just lucky.
Yeah, he's an absolute machine.
And he's probably looked after it. I mean, I don't know, but
yeah,
some people just, are able to keep doing it, aren't they?
So I look at Tom Jones.
Well, he's had nodules.
Yeah,
that like I had, but he's got top specialists in the world to look after him, and Elton John and all those. All I had was the LRI down the road who lasered him off, and then next morning said, "Don't be singing for about 2 weeks." And I'm going, 2 weeks? I'm thinking, I felt like I swallowed a house brick sideways.
Yeah.
I should have had 6 months or more off, but I had to go back to do it after a couple of months because I got a mortgage to pay.
Yeah, of course.
I just couldn't do it, and I ended up with a girl called Chrissy Phillips, and we ended up as a duo.
Yeah.
And we did another 10 years of that, whatever, through the 90s until I joined Skaboom. And then I didn't have to sing at all.
Yeah, well, Skaboom is my next item on my list for this interview.
Really? Oh.
But
that was a good lead in then, wasn't it?
It was, but I think it's quite a good point to play your first track purely because of the title. So you've got Reflections of My Life by Marmalade, and it's a really cool reason you wanted to play this.
Well, it's the Marmalade's biggest hit. It was number 3 in the UK, I think, and number 10 in America, and it was a massive worldwide hit. I think it sold over 2 million items. And I went to Germany with the lads, because I'm still friends with Marmalade. They're still gigging. They're still out there. And I went with them just after 9/11, actually, and videoed them, doing their hits, because I've had about 14 top 20 hits.
What with a live show, was it?
Yeah, live show, and they were miming to something. I sort of made all these videos for a DVD to sell on their tour, gigs, whatever,
merchandise sort of thing. Yeah,
yeah, that's it. And when I put it up on YouTube, it's had well over 500,000 views, and I noticed quite a few of the comments were from Vietnam vets. Who obviously 69 when it come out, 69, 70.
Yeah.
Vietnam was happening, and it meant so much in that one line, the world is a terrible place to live, but I don't want to die, which is a bit like now with COVID-19. But
well, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
But and I just want to say, keep safe, everybody, and keep off the roads, basically. But I've not been out for over 10 days now. I've got to get my wine stash tomorrow, though. Vino Collapso, I need it.
We'll talk. We're going to talk about after the track. We're going to have obviously a chat about Skaboom, but we're also going to talk about the current situation with relation to live music, or lack of, shall we say?
Okay.
So
this is Reflections of My Life by Marmalade.
of sunlight to moonlight, reflections of my life. Oh, how they fill my eyes. The greetings of people in trouble, reflections of my life. Oh, how they fill my eyes. All my sorrow, sad tomorrow, take me back to my own home. All my crying, feel I'm dying, dying. Take me back to my own I'm changing, arranging, I'm changing, I'm changing everything. Oh, everything around me. The world is a bad place, a bad place, a terrible place to live. Oh, but I don't wanna die. All my sorrow, sad tomorrow, take me back to my own home. All my crying, feel I'm dying, dying. Take me back to my own home. All my sorrow, sad tomorrow, take me back to my
Cool. Thanks for suggesting that one, Spike. Good track. I've not heard it before. To be completely honest with you, I'm not gonna lie to you, and you know me too well for me to lie to you and say I'm a massive fan of Marmalade. Not in that I don't like them. I just don't know enough about them.
Yeah, well, they were, of their time.
Yeah. Well, talking of its time, that's exactly. It's exactly not necessarily on Skaboom, but it's exactly what I think about a lot of the ska music I see at these festivals and that kind of thing. But I think with Skaboom, from what I can gather, and I've only seen you guys, I'm not sure if you were on stage yeah, you were, weren't you? We've talked about it at the Donkey for Summer Sunday, the Summer Sunday Fringe, and the Paradigms you're on as well.
Yeah.
And I've only seen them the once, but when you read press about them and stuff, it was in a very much a niche way, in a kind of underground way. That's the word I'm looking for. Nick Murphy's tunes became sort of quite big cult hits, with that audience, a bit like the Paradigms, audience as well, I guess, in that kind of small scale way. So what was that like in comparison? Obviously, it's a different role for you. You're just playing guitar It sounds like, from other members I know in it, I won't name names, it sounds like it was a ridiculously huge party all the time.
Oh, well, it was basically. I mean, fun. It's good. It should be called Scar Fun. I don't know, but it was great, you know. And I came in late. Obviously, they'd been going a few years before I just appeared. You know, I mean, Nick Murphy, he actually he asked me to join, and I've got to be honest, I didn't know anything about Scar at the time.
Who would have thought, eh? Now
I
you're
know.
doing a
I
fair
mean,
bit
I
of it,
knew
aren't
him
you? Yeah.
before, back in the 70s. We used to know it. We knew each other before that. And he just said, "Oh, do you fancy doing this?" I don't know. And I can't remember how. And I just appeared, and I had to learn on the fly. It's not something I listen to, I've got to be honest. But to play, the energy is unbelievable. As you know, you know,
Yeah.
the crowd, it's infectious. The people can't help but dance. And I know so many people at the time who I know who didn't know anything about ska, and they'd come along and say, "I don't like ska," but you see them, they're tapping their feet, they're dancing. You can't help it. It's like a bit of a drug, really.
Yeah.
And and Skaboom were like really in your face. It was hardcore ska. There was no, you know, they didn't pull any punches really, to be honest. And you know, it was great fun. And I mean, what can I say? I mean, Nick, fantastic frontman, fantastic players, all of them, you know. And it was, and obviously you've worked with loads of them yourself.
Yeah. I mean, you talk about Nick being a great frontman, and
And a great drummer too.
yeah, he is. Yeah, well, he's a talent. He's a real talent all round, and
Yeah.
I think it. I always like it when either other singers or other frontmen, and obviously they're one and the same a lot of the time. When they comment on me being a great singer or a great frontman, and I do for them, I think it's a nice boost when one of your peers recognises that.
Oh yeah.
You know, and I think it kind of leads me quite nicely onto the next point, which was talking about artist integrity versus putting on a show, and sometimes the two match well together, and sometimes they don't. What's your kind of thoughts on that?
I'm trying to think how to creativity, artistic. I mean, I've seen bands who are just musically incredible. I mean, you just go, you're blown away as a musician, or you know, but there's no personality coming off the stage. But then you're putting on a show, and I've seen acts which musically aren't that good, but they've got personality.
Yeah.
And they've gone down better. I mean, I don't know whether that's what you mean.
No, that kind of thing. I mean, and I think, see, one of the subjects, as well as doing this podcast, I'm looking to, you know me, I've always got a million things on the go, and I'm looking to write a blog. And one of the first subjects of the blog is there's a massive debate in music, and in terms of especially in terms of what you do live. It's a separate debate about what you put on your albums.
Yeah.
But in both cases, I think it's an unnecessary debate about this original versus covers thing. We've touched on it a few times.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
yeah.
Well, I've got no. I mean, God, look at the Rolling Stones. I mean, their early albums were all covers nearly.
Yeah, UB40, the Beatles.
UB40, there's another one. Yeah. So, you know, some people are a bit sort of anal, if you like,
A
about
bit precious.
I'm not playing covers, and I don't see a problem if you've got to entertain the public.
Yeah.
You know, and stick your own stuff in as well. And if your own music gets them going, great. But there's still nothing wrong with doing a cover.
Well, I think
everybody does covers.
Well, I think a band that we have to agree.
The Beatles did covers.
Yeah. But I think a band that we have to agree, where we always have agreed that where the original stuff does get people going, and it's a bit of shameless self-promotion, particularly on my part, but on yours a bit as well, I guess, is the Paradigms. Because, you know, that writing is it got a familiar feel to it, hasn't it?
Gux has got a fantastic talent, you know, his songwriting talent. There's no two ways about it. And when we've played, the gigs and people are singing, it must be a fantastic feeling for Gux, to see people singing the words to his songs back at him.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm thinking, well, isn't that beautiful?
yeah, I mean, we've done gigs and we've gone out and we say, and we're gonna I'll give you an example. Extra Classy, the song.
Yeah.
And we opened with it at I think it was at Skarmouth, but it was the first time we'd played it live, and we thought this will be a killer opener, which it is.
Yeah.
And we went out, and you could see people in the crowd nudging their mates, going, "Oh yeah, this one!" Like it was some massive hit. And they're definitely 100%. I can tell you, never heard the song before.
No. Well, what about that time we played down on the Solent? Remember that weird garden birthday party?
Oh
It's
yeah. The ex-banker's birthday party. It was his retirement do, and he was 40.
Was it? I can't remember.
Yeah, he was 40 years old. Doesn't make you sick?
This is a private do where nobody knows who you are.
Yeah.
And we're playing totally original stuff, and we smashed it.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
And everybody's dancing and thinking, well, there's a power. There's a power.
Absolutely, yeah.
And all of it was original music.
Well,
okay, there might have been the odd cover like Tom Dooley or something like that. But
yeah, we did Everybody's Talking, I think, as well that night.
That as well, but maybe 2 out of the whole set.
Yeah.
That I can think of. But maybe might have been another one. I can't think. But mainly it was 245s of original stuff, and nobody left the dance floor.
No, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
In that open air tent in the back garden.
It was a teepee, wasn't it, overlooking the sea?
Teepee,
beautiful, beautiful.
Overlooking the Solent. Oh, God.
Fantastic.
And that proves that music, is good as far as I'm concerned. I don't know.
Well, we're gonna play one of your favourites now, and I know you keep saying to me to get it back in the set list, so I will do my very best to get it in the set list for the next show. But it's Love Troubadour by the Paradigms.
Long days and nights, girl, I've been on the road. And if I don't get some loving soon, I feel I will explode. Bring water, cause girl, I am thirsty. And only your loving, baby, can quench this thirst. Cause I'm a love troubadour. Yes, I'm a love troubadour. Yes, I'm a love troubadour. Yes, I'm a love troubadour. If romance what you need, baby, then look no further, woman.
Love Troubadour by the Paradigms there. We're going to go on to another track shortly, and it's one that we both like. It's one that you kind of awoken me to as well, and it's one I might have a go at covering myself. Talking of covering songs, it's How Wonderful You Are, Gordon Haskell. But before we go on to that, one of the subjects on the sort of summary I sent you, we looked at the current situation, but we also sort of planned to talk about being on the road and what it can do for your mental health. We've touched a little bit on that with nerves, but do you think other anxieties and depression and those sort of mental health issues, which are, you know, everybody thinks on the road, fun, partying, oh great, you live in the dream. That's what my mates always say to me, live in the dream.
It's not as glamorous as people think, is it?
No.
I mean, it's hard work. I mean, years ago, I used to say I had more fun actually before the gig and after it, but the actual gig is work. But you know, people used to say, oh, you've got an easy life and you're 1 hour on stage.
Yeah, I hate that.
You forget about the 7 hours either side of that when you're travelling to and from the gig.
Yeah, and the rehearsing and the amount of money you've invested in your equipment.
It is hard. But like you say, mental health, I don't know. I've been quite lucky, really. You have your down moments, but I've never been massively depressed. You get a bit fed up. But oh God, how can I say it? Some people need security, don't they? And these times we're going through now, looking at Facebook at different musicians, and I know, and some are really suffering, you know. I mean,
yeah, they are, yeah.
Because they haven't got normal jobs. But then again, people with normal jobs are suffering too. It's going to end. It will end, but it'll be slightly different.
Well,
very different, in fact.
Well, here's a question. When this is all over, do you think, whenever that is, however long that is, do you think it will benefit live music? Or do you think it will hinder it because people are now used to staying in, not spending money, seeing live streams?
Okay, live streams, great, but there's nothing like the social interaction. We are social animals, aren't we? Really,
majority of us are. I've met some quite unsocial ones in my time.
That song by Barbara Streisand, you know, people who need people.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
They're the luckiest people in the world. You know, basically we all need social. Sorry, breaking into song there.
Stick to the talking, Spike.
Yeah, okay. But it's we need people. It's too impersonal, really. You know, but it's gonna change things. Technically, people are gonna. There's going to be winners and losers in this, but we've got to like yourself. You're embracing this now, which you wouldn't have done, or maybe you might have done in the.
Well, it would have taken me a lot longer. Would have taken me a lot longer.
So you're going to learn from this. Utilize this gap that we've got, and yourself and anyone else, to move ahead, and utilize it for. You could actually put on a show with people in a gig and live stream it. Yeah. And things like that, which you wouldn't have done before, but people are going to learn this technology quickly. Like I said to you before, I know this is a war against a virus, but I said before that it's like a war, like the Second World War, if you like, from 39 to 45, the technology raced ahead. So by 45, there was jet planes and nuclear weapons, which wouldn't have happened normally until maybe the 50s. Yeah. That's all I'm saying. It just makes things, it compresses things. So I just try and be a bit positive about this horrible time we're going through. That's all I'm thinking. Well, I don't know. At the moment now, I'm doing open mics and I work with a band called Bodger's Mate. And who knows whether it'll carry on, because some of the pubs could end up shutting. So there might be less gigs to go to. So this technology could help.
I mean, there's a famous There's a famous saying, isn't there? You use it or lose it, and I think that's definitely applicable to live music venues. You know, there's a
Well, I've heard
real struggle.
Gaz Birtles say that a few times.
Yeah, he's another guest actually. He's coming on. Later down the line. I will do. Yeah.
But use it or lose it,
Mm.
because I've got to be honest. When I first moved to Leicester in '73, I always noticed a bit of apathy.
Mm.
There'd be, people would be complaining about, "No, there's nothing on." There's loads on.
Yeah.
Trust me, there was loads on. Oh, there's nothing on. And when there was something on, they didn't support it. When there isn't something on, they're complaining because there's nothing on. I'm thinking, come on.
Yeah. It's a big problem locally. That is big problem.
Yeah, but that's. I always called it a Leicester apathy. There seemed to be a bit of that, and yet Leicester is full of such good musicians and quality stuff.
Talent, yeah, pure talent.
And even more so now. And it's a shame that they've not got the opportunity that what I had when I first moved to Leicester. There was incredible amount of gigs and stuff going on.
Yeah.
Less now, but the quality of musicianship is far superior now than it was then. But I'll probably upset a few people by saying that, but who knows? But I can see these young kids now thinking, "My God, just too good," and yet there isn't the venues for them to play at.
No, but I guess that's what the very subject of this podcast is, where it comes into play. It's about touring. It's about getting out there. I always say, I've had a few people ask me for advice who are just starting out as musicians locally.
How can you give them advice? Just play, and I don't know. I wouldn't know what to say.
Well, I always say to them,
what do you say?
I say to them, get out of Leicester. Don't get me wrong. Play your not. I don't mean don't live in Leicester, but I mean with your music. Yes, play the great local venues we've got, and if work is available in Leicester, take it. Obviously, that it's easy, it's local, but get out there and tour. And I think with the decline of buying CDs and CD sales, vinyl's still up there, but it's very expensive to do. As an independent artist, you've got the whole streaming thing. It's all about YouTube, etc. But like you said, I think people still crave that social interaction. If you give that social interaction in the show, which not everybody does,
no,
they still crave that. And I still firmly believe that if you can put on a great show, and you're, at least decent musically, that you can have a career as a touring artist. I've always said to you about the Jewelers, for example.
Oh yeah.
Their success is largely, and I've heard them say it in interviews, hard work, and they just graft and tour and build it up and take a few risks, probably have a few really bad days, where things don't sell.
They've got to all be in the same mindset.
That's right, yeah, and that's the most difficult thing to get as a band, isn't it? It's the most difficult thing to get, is everybody on the same page,
Yeah, it is, but they're very lucky. They must be. And that they just work together as a team.
Well, that's it. Yeah, it's team spirit, isn't it? Yeah. That's right. So
I just hope that when all this this bloody crap is over, that people will appreciate you never know what you've lost until it's gone, do you?
That's right.
Now it's gone. Hopefully, when it comes back, people are going to appreciate it more. But people have short memories. Let's just hope they don't this time.
Well, hopefully they'll appreciate how wonderful we are, Spike, and that's going to lead us on to our final track.
What a link.
There you go. See, I'm quite good at this for someone who's just started. On the links anyway, not sure about the rest of it. But thank you very much, Spike. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
It's been great, and thank you so much, Gareth, for including me in your podcast odyssey.
Well, no one else was available, mate. So,
well, good luck with the future.
No problem. Thank you, Spike.
Love you all.
Take care of yourself. Thanks very much.
Good night. God bless you all. See you then.
Thank you so much for joining me for the first episode of On the Road With. My guest this time was Spike Munro, and I'd like to say a huge thank you to him for taking part. It was a really interesting and insightful conversation, and I'll be back with more guests over the course of season 1 for you. If you like what you're hearing, please do follow and subscribe wherever you get your podcast fix. I'm going to play you out now with Gordon Haskell's How Wonderful You Are. Take care now. Bye-bye.
I go out most nights, attracted by the lights, listen to the jazz in Harry's bar. And I know it won't be long before they play that song. Do you know how wonderful you are? It's a sentimental sound, make me wanna fool around with somebody who is wishing on a star. I'll pull my hat down low, go up and say hello. Do you know how wonderful you are? I've always struggled with the art of conversation, and there'll be those for whom the song has no appeal. But I know it works for me, and I'm sure you will agree that it illustrates exactly how I feel. Things can happen fast, some things are built to last. I've seen it all go down in Harry's bar. Though we've only just begun, this show will run and run. Do you know how wonderful you are? I've always struggled with the art of conversation, and there'll be those for whom the song has no appeal. But I know it works for me, and I'm sure you will agree that it illustrates exactly how I feel. Things can happen fast, some things are built to last. I've seen it all go down in Harry's bar. Though we've only just begun, this show will run and run. Do you know how wonderful you are? Do you know how wonderful